Hey everybody, welcome to another Goody Reader review video. My name is Michael.
This is Peter.
Today we're going to check out the latest and greatest, the Apple iPad 3. We're going to give you a full hands-on review of the hardware, the software, some of the key features that are very relevant if you're thinking about upgrading from an Apple iPad 1 or 2, or if you're just buying one for the first time, what you can expect. Just to give you some specs, it's a 9.7-inch display. Resolution is 2000 by 48 by 1536. It has a dual-core 1 gigahertz processor. It also has 1 gig of RAM. Storage is dependent on what unit that you buy, 16, 32, or 64 gigs, and whether you're going to get the Wi-Fi only model, which we have here, or whether you're going to opt in for the 4G LTE. Of course, you will have to pay a monthly fee depending on what provider you go with. We've heard people from reports on, say, Verizon, who are getting about 24 megs a second on their LTE network. So it's not bad in terms of speed. Looking at this device here, you notice that it does have a webcam, and that's about 0.3 megapixels. And looking on the bottom, it actually has a 5 megapixel rear-facing camera. No LED flash or anything like that, but Apple says that it does shoot 1080p video. I remain skeptical of this. I filmed some things earlier on today, and it didn't really look that great. Looking at the unit here, you have a power/standby button on the top. You have your volume up and down. This button you can actually customize in the settings menu what you want it to do. I believe a few options are such as mute and orientation lock. I prefer it to be orientation lock because it helps, I think it just helps a little bit more. Kind of just crisp, chromy design. The one thing I've noticed, this gets pretty hot. We've been pretty well playing with this all day, shooting various videos, and from about 100% to about 50%, it starts getting really, really hot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were playing with this all day just as long as we were with the iPad 1, and this one is noticeably hotter than the iPad 1.
Yeah, so I just hope that this doesn't become like a huge issue over time. Proprietary Apple jack here for different peripherals, but mainly done for charging and connecting it up to your computer to facilitate data transfer. And you do have your speaker here. Audio quality is fairly superb. Front, same sort of design. It's sort of hard on camera to say exactly how thin this is. Let's just compare this really quick to the Apple iPad 1, which is the device that most people have who have upgraded to the Apple iPad 3. So we can give you a side-by-side comparison on how thick it is. So you can see the Apple iPad 3 thinner, and if you kind of look here, it's thinner in size. It's actually a little bit smaller in dimensions. Just looking quick at the top, you can see the Apple iPad 1, again, a little bit larger. Speakers here as opposed to the Apple iPad 3 with speakers right there. Look at the sides just to give you a case again. So hardware-wise, they both have like the same type of elements, but the Apple iPad 3 is like lighter, it's thinner, it's easier to carry around, and so on. Because it has a front-facing webcam, you do have like different elements that you could do. You have FaceTime to talk to your cohorts or comrades. You have photo booth, the ability to basically change things and stuff. It's the roof of our place. Alright, so and of course you have your camera to be able to film a video and take pictures. Of course, messages, you can talk to people with other iPads or iPhones. Contacts, reminders, no huge deal. You also have maps and so on. Let's just dive into the settings really quickly. It does have a number of settings that are different from device to device. You can change your wallpaper, location services. iCloud is a kind of a cool feature. If you've never seen this before, basically it allows you any app that you download, any type of emails and things, you can store it in a cloud. So if you have a MacBook Pro, Air, if you have an iPhone, whatever apps that you purchase on this device would appear on other devices. So we have multiple iPads in the office. Whatever basically app I buy on here would automatically be synced with options on different platforms. So you can see here that your email settings, comes with Twitter. So you can see some of the options here. Alright. So with the Apple iPad 3, the big selling point is the Retina display. From what we've noticed in a lot of our comparisons, that it's pretty negligible on how great all these new things look. There really hasn't been any games or apps written from the ground up giving you high def graphics. You have some things like Star Walk that we showed you in our iPad 1 and 3 comparison video, Solar Walk, and how things look a little bit different, things load up a little bit quicker, some of the textures look a little bit better. You can see you can zoom in and things really don't look that pixelated. And of course you can check out all of our other comparison videos on our YouTube channel. Most of these things load up pretty quickly. There really isn't like a lot of lag when you're doing things. I kind of like that. Okay, so, what's the reading experience like? With Goody, anybody could do an Apple iPad 3 review. At Goody Reader, we want to show you the reading experience on how that's going to change. So let's just check out the newsstand and check out one of my favorite gaming publications, Edge. Now you can see it takes a while for the pages to actually... It takes a little bit of time. That looks sick. I really...
That's real.
Yeah, that looks real, and this is sort of like one of the elements that really makes the Apple iPad 3 shine. Now, this has a quad-core graphics processor and a dual-core processor. One of the things that kind of irks me is when you're reading magazines, it's blurry, and you have to kind of wait a few seconds for it to, to render properly, and that gets hella annoying over time. Like, okay, I'm scrolling to this page. Oh, I have to wait a few.
4 seconds right there.
Yeah, and I mean, I've already downloaded this to the iPad, but I mean, look at that. It gets annoying, but on the flip side, I mean, graphics look pretty good. You can interact with it all. Magazines have been one of the things since the Apple newsstand debuted that people are really over. And magazines like Cosmopolitan have sold about 1 million issues on the digital platforms. And it's mainly thanks to Zinio and the newsstand to facilitate all this content. So magazines look really good. And although it does take sort of a few seconds for things to render, if you have a little bit of patience, it's not too bad. So this is the Apple newsstand looking at the Edge Gaming magazine. Kindle has been an app that's been updated for the Apple iPad 3. If you have the Amazon Kindle Fire, this interface may look similar, and Kindle and Amazon have updated their iPad application to show higher resolution text, and that's just not applicable for the iPad 3, but also on the earlier editions of the iPad 1 and 2. Looking at the ebook experience, this is the Kindle app. It gives you a little bit of flexibility in terms of being able to, change the background. So night mode. Being able to change the text. I like it how it's all real time, it's very quick, there really isn't like a lot of delay and lag, and I kind of like that. You can also do things like being able to like highlight text and things like that. Kind of gives you a little bit of versatility. You can even like look words up like in Wikipedia and find out dictionary definitions and so on. One of the drawbacks, of course, with most e-reading applications on the iOS platform is you can't make in-app purchases for ebooks. That's mainly because Apple mandated that any in-app purchase, Apple has to take a cut, and because Amazon sells like millions of ebooks a week, they didn't want to prospectively give Apple billions of dollars a year in revenue. So if you want to make purchases and have them show up, you need to do it through the Safari web browser on Amazon.com, or you can use their Kindle Cloud Reader and so on. So we showed you this. Let's just show you quickly on how the comic book experience looks. This is Marvel. So resolution's not too bad. You can of course pinch and zoom. Gives you a lot of options here for animation, transition speed, letterboxing, and so on. Also has a pretty good store. I'm a pretty big fan of Marvel, but whether you're with DC Comics, Comixology, various other platforms like Dark Horse and stuff like that, things tend to, you know, resolute pretty fast. We're just doing a basic preview here. Colors are pretty crisp. Comic book reading on a large screen display like the iPad really shine. I find it pretty hard on like 5, 6, 7-inch devices to read comics. Whether you're reading it in landscape or portrait mode on the iPad 3, it pretty well gives you everything that you really need. Full pages and pretty good experience. So let's see how video looks. iTunes has pretty well ushered in 1080p type movies and videos and things like that. Let's just check out something randomly here. Let's check out Hugo. We'll do an HD preview and see how this does. So it doesn't look that bad. Of course, when we did our video side by side, again with the iPad 1 and Apple iPad 3, it was pretty negligible from iTunes. Perhaps downloaded movies would look a little bit better, but that's what you can expect from the video experience. Games and everything like that, they pretty well load a little bit quicker. The textures, and especially in a lot of the games like Asphalt 6, which on iTunes, Apple has a section for, on the App Store, Apple has a section for like new games that were developed, or not developed, but they pretty well have been updated and have some customization for the new iPad. So you can see some of the games here. New York Times, some Elmo games, some racing games. Not a whole lot of content yet. A lot of these things, again, have not been written from the ground up, taking into account the new resolution. Some of them have had a few texture updates and things like that, but pretty well, if you're expecting a night and day difference, you're in for some shock that there really isn't any night and day difference yet. On launch day, which is the day that we're reviewing this, there really isn't a lot of new features that are saying, wow, that's amazing, or wow, that looks so good. We've been reviewing this all day and comparing it with a lot of other devices, and we haven't really had that wow moment yet.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, today is the very first day it came out. We're no more than a couple hours from when it was released, and honestly, there's nothing here that completely jumps off the page, or if you will, or screen, to say this is completely different than the other iPads, because honestly, there's nothing here. There's nothing really that different. I mean, even the housing of the iPad itself physically is the same as the 2, minus a little bit of differences in thickness. But other than that, I guess the biggest thing that I found was the colors are more vibrant. That was about it.
Yeah, that's what I found too. I really think that in order for the iPad 3 to really shine is enhanced ebooks. So ebooks that have video elements, interactive elements, and things like that, as well as, again, games written from the ground up using super high textures and comic books with higher resolution textures and things like that. So there really isn't enough content yet to really say, wow, the iPad 3 rules. It's mainly like, yeah, the iPad 3 is kind of cool, has better graphics and better processor for graphics rendering and stuff like that. But in essence, it's the same as the iPad 2. There really isn't a huge paradigm shift. And again, we're pretty well going to have to wait for about 4 or 5 months in order for app developers to really kind of catch up and give us some better options. But the differences right now, negligible, but they are there. And so if you are thinking about getting an iPad 3 for the first time, I really recommend that over previous iterations. The iPad 1 versus the iPad 3 is a huge step up, in terms of processing power, in terms of things loading up quicker, the resolution and things like that. So this has just been a review of the Apple iPad 3. In a few months, we'll do a follow-up review on some of the new games and content and enhanced ebooks that come up. So for GiddyReader.com, my name is Michael.
This is Peter.
And everybody take care.